The teachings of Jesus are often remembered for their comfort, hope, and promises of salvation. However, alongside these encouraging messages, there exists another dimension that is equally significant but frequently overlooked. Jesus consistently issued warnings, direct, urgent, and deeply spiritual cautions about the condition of the human heart, the dangers of deception, and the consequences of ignoring God's truth. These warnings were not abstract ideas or distant prophecies. They were practical, immediate, and relevant to everyday life. Yet, despite their clarity, many of them continue to be ignored, misunderstood, or minimized in modern times. Therefore, this explanation examines the major warnings given by Jesus in Scripture, not merely as historical statements, but as ongoing realities that still apply today. By understanding them carefully, it becomes possible to recognize their significance and respond with greater awareness. The warning about hypocrisy. One of the most frequent warnings Jesus gave was against hypocrisy. He spoke directly to religious leaders who appeared outwardly righteous but were inwardly corrupt. Hypocrisy, as described by Jesus, is not simply inconsistency. It is the deliberate presentation of a false spiritual image. It involves prioritizing external appearance over internal transformation. Jesus warned that such behavior is dangerous because it deceives both others and the individual practicing it. A person may appear spiritually sound while remaining disconnected from true righteousness. This warning remains relevant because it challenges the tendency to focus on visible actions rather than genuine character. The warning about loving the world. Jesus repeatedly warned about the danger of attaching one's heart to worldly possessions and temporary gains. He emphasized that it is possible to gain material success while losing something far more valuable. This warning addresses the issue of misplaced priorities. When material concerns dominate, spiritual awareness becomes diminished. The problem is not the existence of possessions, but the attachment to them. When they become the primary source of identity or security, they replace trust in God. This teaching continues to be overlooked in environments where success is often measured by external achievement. The warning about false prophets. Another significant warning concerns false prophets. Jesus stated that not everyone who appears spiritual speaks truth. False prophets are described as individuals who present themselves as trustworthy but lead others away from the truth. Their influence can be subtle, making discernment essential. Jesus emphasized that such individuals can be recognized by their outcomes. Their teachings and actions eventually reveal their true nature. This warning remains important because deception often appears convincing. Without careful evaluation, it becomes easy to accept messages that seem correct but are ultimately misleading. The warning about narrow and broad paths. Jesus presented a powerful contrast between two paths. One is broad and easy, leading to destruction. The other is narrow and difficult, leading to life. This warning highlights the reality of choice. Not every path leads to the same outcome, even if it appears attractive. The broad path represents conformity and ease, while the narrow path requires commitment and discipline. This teaching is often ignored because the easier option tends to be more appealing. However, Jesus makes it clear that ease does not guarantee a positive result. The warning about hearing without doing. Jesus warned against merely listening to his teachings without applying them. He compared such behavior to building a house on unstable ground. This warning emphasizes the importance of action. Knowledge alone is insufficient if it does not lead to transformation. The danger lies in the illusion of understanding. A person may believe they are aligned with truth simply because they are familiar with it. This remains relevant in contexts where information is abundant but application is limited. The warning about spiritual blindness. Jesus often addressed the issue of spiritual blindness. This refers to the inability to recognize truth despite being exposed to it. He warned that it is possible to see physical realities while remaining unaware of deeper spiritual truths. Spiritual blindness is not always intentional. It can result from pride, distraction, or resistance to change. This warning is significant because it highlights the need for humility and openness in understanding spiritual matters. The warning about worry and anxiety. Jesus addressed worry as a misplaced focus on uncertainty. He warned that excessive concern about the future can distract from trust in God. This teaching does not dismiss practical responsibility. Instead, it emphasizes the importance of maintaining perspective. Worry becomes problematic when it consumes attention and replaces trust. This warning remains widely ignored in environments characterized by constant pressure and uncertainty. The warning about judging others. Jesus cautioned against judging others without self-examination. He pointed out the inconsistency of criticizing others while ignoring personal faults. This warning addresses the tendency towards self-righteousness. It encourages reflection and humility. The issue is not discernment, but unfair or hypocritical judgment. This teaching remains relevant because it challenges the instinct to evaluate others more strictly than oneself. The warning about unforgiveness. Jesus emphasized the importance of forgiveness, warning that refusing to forgive others affects one's own spiritual condition. Unforgiveness creates a barrier that prevents restoration and peace. This warning highlights the interconnected nature of relationships and spiritual well-being. Despite its importance, forgiveness is often difficult, making this teaching one of the most frequently neglected. The warning about complacency. Jesus warned against spiritual complacency, particularly in parables that describe individuals who fail to remain prepared. Complacency involves a lack of awareness or readiness. It assumes that there will always be more time. However, Jesus emphasized the importance of vigilance and preparation. This warning remains relevant in situations where urgency is replaced by delay. The warning about deception in the last days. Jesus spoke about widespread deception in the future. He warned that many would be misled by convincing signs and messages. This highlights the importance of discernment and careful evaluation. The warning suggests that deception will not always be obvious. It may appear credible and persuasive. This remains significant in an environment where information is abundant but not always reliable. The warning about faith without depth. Jesus used the parable of seeds to illustrate different responses to truth. Some seeds grow quickly but lack depth, leading to temporary commitment. This warning addresses superficial faith. It emphasizes the importance of stability and endurance. Without depth, external pressures can easily disrupt commitment. This remains relevant in situations where initial enthusiasm is not supported by lasting conviction. The warning against ignoring the needy. Jesus highlighted the importance of compassion, warning against neglecting those in need. He emphasized that actions towards others reflect deeper values. This teaching connects spiritual life with practical responsibility. Ignoring this warning results in a disconnect between belief and action. The warning about pride. Jesus frequently addressed pride as a barrier to understanding and growth. Pride creates resistance to correction and limits the ability to learn. This warning emphasizes humility as a necessary condition for spiritual awareness. Pride remains a significant obstacle because it often goes unrecognized. When all these warnings are considered together, a consistent pattern emerges. They address both internal attitudes and external behaviors. Jesus did not focus on only visible actions. He addressed motives, priorities, and perspectives. This comprehensive approach shows that spiritual life involves the whole person, not just isolated aspects. Moreover, these warnings are interconnected. Ignoring one often leads to others. For example, pride can lead to hypocrisy, which in turn can lead to spiritual blindness. So when we examine every major warning given by Jesus, it becomes clear that they are not outdated or irrelevant. They address fundamental aspects of human behavior that remain unchanged. From hypocrisy and pride to deception and complacency, each warning highlights a specific risk that continues to exist. These teachings are not meant to create fear, but awareness. They are intended to guide, correct, and protect. Ultimately, the question is not whether these warnings are still valid, but whether they are being taken seriously. Because as Jesus made clear, understanding alone is not enough. What matters is how these warnings are applied.